Okay, so in this video, I'm going to review 3 subtopics I studied today on real estate and on the contracts topic. So subtopics include the general information, such as signing and creating a contract, what goes into it. Secondly, listing agreements, such as designated for the sellers. And thirdly, buyer broker agreements, which are designated for buyers in the market in relation to brokers, their relationship. So first off, the general info of the subtopics pertains to the signing of contracts. And so basically the number one thing that is needed when signing a contract, the number one necessary thing is that when signing, all parties are legally competent. So yeah, and that's the main thing. And then in terms of what goes into making a contract, I learned 2 terms such as addendum, which is adding additional information and new terms to a contract, and not affecting existing terms. So it's just adding terms to a contract, and that's addendum. And then the second definition I learned was amendment, which means a changing of a whole contract, all the terms after it's signed and all parties agreed to changing it. That's an amendment. Secondly, in regards to listing agreements, the listing agreement subtopic, I learned that there are 3 types of listing agreements between sellers and agents. First would be exclusive right to sell listing agreement, which means that seller agrees to pay their agent a commission regardless of who finds the buyer, and the seller also agrees to work exclusively with that agent that they make that listing agreement with in the sale of their home, which is the general sort of listing agreement that most relate seller agent agreements go to most of the time, I'd say. An exclusive agency agreement would be that the seller agrees to work with one brokerage or agent as their exclusive representative. However, the seller only owes commission to the agent if the agent finds a buyer. If the seller finds a buyer, then the seller doesn't owe commission. So basically, they agree to working with an agent, but it all depends, the money, the commission, all depends on who finds the buyer. So honestly, the agent could do a lot of work and then still not get any commission on it, which isn't as, I don't know if people do that or not, but yeah, that's one of the types of agreements. It's better for the seller, obviously. Maybe it's for realtors who are new to the market and are just trying to practice their license without much, I don't know, just to get experience, I guess, for some realtors. Doesn't really sound like a good idea, deal to them. It's all profiting the seller. If the seller, well, unless the realtor finds a buyer, which would be pretty likely, I mean, because that's their job. Okay, and then there's the open agency agreement, which means that the seller can sign agreements with multiple brokerages and agents. And whoever finds the buyer earns the commission. And if the seller finds the buyer, they don't owe commission to anyone. It's a lot like the exclusive agency agreement, but this is open agency agreement. The only difference is exclusive agencies for one agency, and then open agencies for multiple agencies. They're basically the same thing. Like, if seller finds the buyer, they get the commission. Or what? If seller finds buyer, they get the commission. And then, like, if realtor finds the buyer, they get the commission. But then open agency is a lot more competitive. Yeah. But yeah, alright. And then thirdly is a third subtopic I studied was buyer broker agreements. There are two types of buyer broker agreements between a buyer and agent, and that includes the non-exclusive buyer representation agreement, which allows the buyer to work with other brokers who may end up representing the buyer in the transaction, not limited to working with just one broker. So it's just like the buyer is not hitched to any agent. Like, they could be going out looking at houses with multiple different agents, and then the agent that shows them the house they like and want to buy, that's the one that gets the lucky pick. I don't believe a lot of agents like to do that, though, because that's not very secure for their, like, they're kind of like wasting their time, or not necessarily, but I think most agents like to do a buyer representation agreement, which means that it's exclusive. The name is buyer representation agreement. And so that's a contract between a buyer and agent that makes the agent the buyer's exclusive representative. If the buyer wants to buy a property listed from the same brokerage, the buyer's agent may need to act or be accepted as a dual agent. Yeah, that makes complete sense. If the buyer sees a house that they like that is listed from the same brokerage and agent as the one that they have for their buyer representation agreement, the agent would have to be a dual agent. But it's just saying that, like, throughout all the houses they go see, they're seeing these houses with one agent. They're not, like, the buyer's not contacting, like, different agents from different, like, areas, trying to pick their brain and look around with those different agents. Like, that would be a non-exclusive buyer representation agreement. Buyer representation agreement would be like, that's your dog, that's your agent, and you do everything with your agent. And they might become your dual agent. Yeah, that was the two buyer brokerage agreements.